Right, sir.
This is why I say that you don't want to stop. Oh, the door, just get done.
Sorry about that. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting of the City of Riviera Beach. The day is January 23rd, 2025. The time is approximately 6:30 p.m. If anyone wishes to speak on an agenda item, please complete a public comment card and give it to the Planning and Zoning Board staff prior to the board discussion and before the public comment section is announced. If no one will be allowed to submit a comment card to speak on an agenda item after the item has been read or discussed. The total time for each member to speak to the public to comment on each item is 3 minutes. Can we start off with a moment of silence? And we have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Frank Fernandez.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, we need a flag in here.
At least put one on the wall. Right. All right. Let's go and do roll call, please.
Miss Burgess? Here. Miss Joseph? Present. Mr. Gallen?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Fernandez?
Here.
Vice Chair Guyton? Chair Wiley?
Present. Do we have acknowledgement of any board member absentee notification?
Yes, Miss Margaret Shepard did call on Tuesday and inform us that she will not be present at this meeting.
Thank you. And acknowledgement of board member vacant positions.
Vacant District 2, vacant District 4. And there are the alternate positions.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
at this moment, I would like to take the opportunity to have a motion to have the alternates present with voting rights for tonight's meeting.
Second. It has been properly motioned and seconded. Are we ready for the vote, Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Gallen?
Yes.
Miss Joseph?
Yes.
Miss Burgess?
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
The vote passes a unanimous vote.
All right. Number 3, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
None from staff, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. On to number 4, disclosure by any board members. None recognized. And adoption of the agenda.
Chair,
Yes.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
It has been properly motioned and seconded. Are we ready for the vote, Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Gallen?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Fernandez?
Yes.
Miss Burgess?
Yes.
Chair Wiley?
Yes.
The vote passes unanimous vote, Chair.
Thank you. Section 5, approval of minutes.
Chair, do we have any meeting minutes?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
We are saving those for the next meeting, as that's when we will handle all voting items. So we reserve this just for workshop items today.
Thank you, sir. On to number 6, unfinished business.
None.
Thank you. On to new business.
From staff, Mr. Chair.
Got it. On to number 8, workshop items.
The comprehensive plan workshop will be presented by Principal Planner Sunit Simon.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, staff. Sunit Simon, Principal Planner, Development Services. Today, we are continuing our amazing time of drafting our comprehensive plan. Today, we are looking at 2 elements, and the 2 elements that we'll be looking at is capital improvements as well as infrastructure. So those are pretty big ones that we are looking at today. We have members of our staff that's in the audience, like the other meetings, that will be helping us to answer any questions that you all may have. I am excited to be here. We're going to be doing something a little bit different for capital improvements. But before I do that, I do want to thank my team who has been phenomenal in helping me just get this together for you guys tonight. I broke my leg, so I'm virtual with you guys today. So they have been doing all the leg work and everything to get here. In particular, I do want to shout out Abrella Weathers, as she has been cutting up, taping, and trying to make things right for me. So thank you, everybody, for your time today. Before you should see some jars, and you should see some paper money as well. We are going to be talking about our capital improvement program that we have here at the city. The element here focuses on public facilities that we manage with tax dollars, and how we prioritize those. On how we build our city. Apparently, my cat wants to join the conversation. I want to make sure everyone has their dollars. Everybody has their dollars.
Yes.
And everybody sees their jar. So please open your jar. Get comfortable. There you go. Yeah, good job. All right, in front of you should have the page that is color green. That color green page, not the blue one, but the green one, because the green is one that we're going to work with. We're going to work through. This one, when you have some questions, we might be able to get some help from our finance team. Nydia is here representing our finance team. Thank you so much, Ms. Reynolds. As well as, I can't see the audience, but we might have some things for Public Works, may have some language here, and engineering. So you have your dollars, you have your green page, you have your jar. And this is how it's going to look. I'm going to share my screen with you. So you have 3 types of dollars. You have a $1 bill, which means that, you have a $1 bill, which means that it's not so much my favorite language. It could be written better. You have a $5 bill. That means that this is okay, but may need some work. And then you have a $10 bill that just says, yeah, this is good. This is kind of how I want it to look, right? On your paper, like we've always done, if you have suggestions in the comment section, I'd love for you to write your comments on how we can improve it. So if you give me a $1, I want you to tell me why you gave me a $1 and what do you think could make it better. And if you can't really think of what can make it better, just go, maybe emphasize this or scratch it. We just don't like that idea in general, okay? And if you give me a 5, I still want those comments. What could be worked on? Or is there things that you want to pull away from it? And if you give it a 10, that means it was really great. And if you have more comments and say, hey, this was good, but add this to it, or think about putting this, that would be great, okay? So you take that dollar bill, you write which number it is. So if it's objective 1, you put a 1 on that dollar bill, and then you throw it inside of your jar. Are there any questions? I want you guys to have fun, so I have to hear you. Even if you have no questions, say no, so I can hear that you're with me.
No.
Excellent. All right, let's move. I'm going to do the first one a little slow, so that way we are all doing it together. All right. So before we begin, I want you to know the purpose of the capital improvement element. Remember, in our comp plan, it's our particular comp plan is built around elements, which are the different topics, subjects that we're working on. This one is capital improvements. This one is to ensure that the public facilities that we manage are available for our community and meets the needs of our community, especially as we grow. We want to make sure that we are planning for the years to come. And with capital improvement, this one has a plan that goes, it's like a 5-year plan. And then we review it every year as we prioritize what needs to be on the top of the list of what we are going to be putting tax dollars towards for improvements in our city. The language that you'll be reviewing today is the goal as well as objectives. We won't be reviewing policy language. You do have access to the policy language in your packets as well as online, but for today, we are only reviewing the goal and the objectives, okay? Awesome. So the first one we're gonna look at are the goals. I'm trying to move something on the phone screen. There we go. The first one, we're gonna be looking at the goal. The goal reads as such. Oh, and I wanna remind you, I do apologize, I'm gonna backtrack. If you notice that if you see there are no underlines and no strike throughs, it's because that's the existing language. And we probably just said we're going to keep it like it is. If you see a strike through, that means we're taking that language out. And then when we add new language, those are an underline, just like all the other amendments that we normally do. So the goal read, to ensure that the city's capital improvement plan achieves adequate service levels for the community, while also accommodating future development projects, by identifying the need and location for new facilities, maintaining and maximizing the use of existing facilities, and utilizing sound fiscal practices. Go ahead and read that on your own. If you like it, give me it's okay. If you don't like it, tell us why you don't like it. And remember, we can have a discussion. This idea is to have a discussion. All right, objective 1. This one's a long one, but this one is about the annual capital improvements program process. It says that the city shall use the capital improvements element as a means to ensure construction, replacement of capital facilities are consistent with the elements of the comprehensive plan. The annually reviewed capital improvements element shall be used as the basis for detailing the city's public facility needs and deficiencies based on current population and future growth, and planning corrective capital projects through a 5-year capital improvement program, and to ensure that the plan is financially feasible and that the adopted level of service standards are achieved and maintained. That was a mouthful. If you like it, give it $10. If it's missing something, give it $5. And if it's not that great, give it $1. Remember, on any dollar that you choose to put a number 1 on there so I know it's for objective 1. And if you have any questions, go ahead and speak so we can hear you.
Yes.
Just real quick, Salid, how are we going to prioritize what we need? Right now, the city needs, you know, water, sewer improvements, roads, transportation, housing, workforce housing. Who and how are we going to prioritize what we're going to invest as part of our capital improvements?
So what happens is hold on. Well, you'll see my face. What happens is we have a capital improvements group, the staff members that come together annually to review the different projects and the priorities. And they determine what the priorities are for that year and then within the 5 years. So we have a capital improvements plan that prioritizes what goes first and how it happens. And so that will be attached to this particular plan, but that's what we do normally as a city. And then that itself kicks off our budget year and how we decide how we budget.
I haven't seen anything from that committee as far as what the priorities are, what they're looking at. So it will behoove them to share the information, especially if we're going over it tonight. And I have no idea what it is that they're looking at for the next year and the next 5 years.
Nidhi, I'm not sure if you could tell us how this gets advertised and pushed out to our community. And if you don't know, you can just say you don't know.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Uh, I, I, I think we made a oversight error in not introducing other staff in the audience right now. We do have with us for this conversation Assistant Finance Director, Ms. Nydia Reynolds, who was just mentioned by Sunny, that may be able to provide some insight in how we program the CIP, at least from the finance department side. Also, Public Works Director Roberto Travieso is with us as well, that also oversees parts of the infrastructure of the city. So both are with us and can assist us in providing how they operate and work with those different aspects of the city. But Ms. Reynolds, we have a mic at the podium and one over here if you prefer as well.
Chair,
Yes.
let the record reflect that Vice Chair Guyton is on the dais at 6:43 p.m.
And I apologize. I thought I did introduce. I do apologize if you all didn't hear me.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Nydia Reynolds, Assistant Finance Director. Every year during the budget process, maybe starting in around sometimes January or February, we meet and we send out a criteria, like a form to each department director. They would complete this form. And based on the forms and the capital projects, we would then meet as a group to prioritize the projects that are important to be funded. And we have the capital improvement projects as the budget work, as part of a budget workshop. And then we also have the budget book that includes all the projects for the year going out to 5 years.
What we'll be doing with the comp plan is it'll be attached to it as a as part of the attachments, so that everyone would have a copy of this. I know currently on our website for comp plan, we don't have it as an attachment. So one of the changes that we'll be making this time around is making sure that all the attachments that goes with each element is present also on our website. So that way you're able to click in and see these things. And so so everyone has more access to the great work that especially like the finance department does. They do a great job of putting this together for our city. And so we'll help to make it accessible for everyone.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a question for the Assistant Finance Director. How are the capital improvement projects prioritized?
Well, we have different criteria that for the project. One example meaning life, health, safety projects that are necessary to meet life, health, and safety requirements to eliminate potentially imminent life, health, and safety issues. Legal and regulatory compliance, essential and critical improvements, strategic alignment, infrastructure, risk management, and resiliency, environmental protection, coordination and dependency, leverage external funds, revenue producing, and cost savings. So we have that list that we associate with each project that's presented by departments. And then we gather all of these documents and then meet as a group to determine which projects to fund for the year and for the next 5 years.
Okay, based on what you just said, each of those criteria, is that subjective or objective? Do you have a matrix or something to determine the degree of each of those categories?
We do. We go through and then we evaluate them based on the urgency. Based on the criteria that's listed.
Read the first one off. Let me
So
tell you
the
what
first one we have is life, health, and safety.
Okay, right there. Do you have standards to determine what meets those criteria? I know objectively we can say water is definitely one.
Right. Oh, do you mean like, one being high,
Yes,
two
a
being?
scale.
We do. And we
Hmm.
also, after that, once we score them, we put the ranking as well, in the associated with each project in the capital improvement plan.
Okay.
But this entire document associated with each project, that's not published within the book.
Okay.
This is like an internal document that we get together and meet and discuss.
Does this help,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
does this
Yes.
help, Nydia?
I'm sorry.
Yes, recognize.
To continue on my conversation as to what are we prioritizing? As you well know, the water and sewer infrastructure in the city is approaching 100 years, if not 100 years. We've had multiple water main breaks in this city. So what, and that's definitely life and health, number one and number two. Where are we and what projects are we looking to do as far as water and sewer improvements within Riviera Beach? And let's just tackle the two of those.
And before you answer, let me just, my colleague, 3 years ago, 2013, 14, we did a massive underground infrastructure project throughout the city on the island, north of Murrow Heights, on the south end. We dug up everything, put in new pipes, new sewers. We did that back in 2013, 2014. So a lot of the residential pipes, the public infrastructure, is fairly new because we invested a lot in those projects. We made sure the island got, every district got something. And I was on the council when we did that. So a lot of our infrastructure publicly is not 100 years old. That's the point I'm making, because we did do a major capital improvement project, and we dug up a lot. Did we do every inch of the city? No, but we did do major portions of each district. So some of it is more modern than 100 years. I don't want the people to think that nothing has been changed in 100 years. So a lot of it has. That's
All I
the,
keep seeing is water main ruptures. We keep adding more and more buildings, tapping into existing infrastructure.
Can you
That's
speak
what
into the
I'm trying to
mic, please?
address. What are we doing with that? Now, if we did some improvements, like Mr. Guyton said, in 2014, well, maybe all these recent ones in the last 4 years, maybe those were not done. So what I'm saying is, have we had an engineering firm out there and say, these are the areas that we need to tackle? We just had the latest one at Martin Luther King, and we've had quite a few within the city as far as water mains goes. And you're right, maybe most of it's aging. What I'm saying is, whatever we did in 14 or 13 or whatever year it was done, does not reflect the population explosion and the growth that we have, and we're tapping into an aging infrastructure.
Oh, sorry, excuse me, sorry, Mr. Can I step in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the group does do this analysis, and they do try to go from area to area as to trying to figure out how they do this priority. I want us to not go down a rabbit hole, but I do want to share my screen on this one. Mr. Reynolds, if you can speak to if this helps to answer that question. So this is an example. Of identification of what priority projects we should look at, and it kind of shows what funding is being put towards this, how it ranks towards priority, and then later on where it's going to happen if it's not citywide. So the group does do this. Our city engineer does help lead that process. If anything, he kicks it off with the different developments that we're looking at in order to do this. So for our purposes today is to make sure that the language that we have in our plan says this. So if we feel as if that we're not, you don't feel as if that we're necessarily getting all of this, let's put that down so that way we can maybe review some of the process, or maybe say, hey, we want the process to include, I don't know, community members, so we ensure that it is the priority for everyone. So let's not go down let's not go down that hole, but let's help guide it if that's possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I think this one will help with the question that you have, Mr. Fernandez. Objective 1.2, level of service and concurrency. City officials shall continue to use the adopted concurrency management system as a basis for reviewing development applications and land use decisions in order to maintain public facilities levels of service. For this one, we struck out as specified in the following policies because I actually I don't like objectives that points towards random policies that can change and shift. So I want it to be clear that we are, as new development comes in, that we are ensuring that there is a level of service that is met to ensure that everyone has access to the needs. Everyone's needs are met through our services that we have. This does lead down to more policies later on, and you can go through the policies that ensures how that process is done, whether it's done with the transportation, through transportation at the county, or whether it's done with the school board saying, yes, we have enough space for kids, or it's looking at our roads and our engineer working at FDOT saying, yes, the road has the capacity for this, or with the stormwater that we have is able to be serviced here. So let's look at this language and see if it's missing something. Remember, $1 if you don't think it's great, $5 if you think it's okay, $10 if you think it's stellar.
Mr. Chair,
Recognized.
I've got a question for staff. Could you please clarify what concurrency management is?
Yes. So with concurrency,
I know what concurrency is in management, but it said the concurrency management system. Well,
I think I'm glad you pointed that out. When I read it, and that means that I should change it so that way everyone understands it the same way. We're not all trying to guess on it, so that'll be the note I'll write for myself. But concurrency management system is pretty much saying with the list of with the different entities or the different disciplines that are supposed to chime in to say that the roads are okay, we have enough drainage, yes, we have enough space for schools. The different groups that are supposed to chime in to say that this development is able to come into the city, or this development may increase itself or decrease, however we decide. Our systems that we have in place, our levels of service are able to meet that because we have because we're doing a checks and balance across the different entities.
So
that's how I read it. But because you had the question on it, I think we need to change that language so that way it's clearer.
Yes, and to follow up on that, so are there different levels of concurrency, like levels of service like the county has? They have
Yes.
an alphabet system.
Correct. And we utilize, especially, and I'm thinking you're speaking when you say the alphabet system more for transportation.
Yeah,
we utilize,
from transportation.
Yes, we utilize that same process.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Hold on, I'm writing the note for myself. Thank you. That's a good catch. Please write it in on your paper too. It helps me when I go back to write our notes on these. And I want to remind everybody to speak into your microphones so that we all can hear the comments, because you guys have had some great comments. Especially Mr. Fernandez, that was a comment that we had in question, very similar to what you were just asking earlier.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
And just add to Ms. Simon's comments on that, Part of what is before you when you as a board review development projects, we are sure to include the review components. My staff and development service, we primarily focus on our land development regulations, long range planning, landscaping. It's hundreds of pages of regulations. However, we have outside departments such as our city engineer, our utility district engineer, who also review these projects, and their review and approval of this takes into account those things related to concurrency and infrastructure and capacities of it. So when those projects come before you, they have been vetted by our city engineers against our concurrency criteria and capacity limits. So that is encompassed in the reviews of the projects that come before you.
Do you think we should call it concurrency criteria then, instead of management system?
I like criteria. I think it communicates more broadly than I think management system is what we have here.
Yeah.
But again, that's why we workshop to land on language that makes sense to more
It is,
people.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, recognize.
The process to me is more of an analysis to determine the ability to accommodate. So you're doing an analysis to determine the concurrency or the ability to accommodate whatever the project is. So I don't know if an analysis could be thrown in there somewhere as it relates to the review of the project, specifically about concurrency. There needs to be an analysis done to ensure that it can accommodate it.
Okay,
Just my comments.
I like that.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes, recognize.
Who makes up the city officials?
Oh, that's a good question. It's city staff, is really what it is. And so let's strike that word out and make it say staff.
And staff is directors?
Uh,
Is it-
it's a mixed bag. And I say it's a mixed bag because especially if you talk about like my planning team, our planning team, we're not all directors, but we all are reviewing for concurrency. So it'd just be staff, I think, would make more sense.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Chair, Sonny,
Recognize.
city staff comprised of staff members from all components of the city. Can we just clarify that a little more when you're rewording it? Because city staff is maybe it's just one department. So just kind of reword it.
So maybe like multidisciplinary, like maybe or interdepartment staff? Does that make more sense, or
Chair,
staff across the departments, or?
I think
Yes.
the young lady from Finance and Budget actually stated those different departments that make up what entails the officials. So if we could just really state what those departments are in the language, unless they change. Do they change every year, or is it always those same departments? From Finance and Budget.
It starts really with the departments. Departments meaning it could be the fire department, utility special district, public works plays a major role in the capital projects. It's really across the city. Development services is also included, finance, the city manager, procurement, and also the city engineer. So we all get together as a group to go through the projects on an annual basis.
Mhm.
So that's very clear.
So the direction you're giving me is to put all the departments
All departments.
Yes.
titled.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, recognize.
I would suggest if you look at the other language, this one is sort of an anomaly. If you use the language "the city," that generally implies all staff, elected officials, advisory. I think it's a good catch-all for everyone who's involved in the process. So I would propose we just change it to say the city shall continue.
Well, I would just little beg to differ with that. The city still includes only certain. It doesn't include everyone within the city. And it's just to be clear who those persons are. Because if you have someone taking water bill payments, they're not included in that, but they're still basically a representative of the city. So it's just clarification, unless you're going to give a like little legend or something and state somewhere else that what it means when you say city, so you don't have to keep repeating it out. You could do it that way.
Okay.
I like that. We'll include a definition for what we mean when we say the city, because it is used in multiple objectives, and I'm sure not just in this element. So we'll define the city to make sure we know that that it encompasses everyone that is a part of this operation.
Excellent. Great comments, everyone. Thank you. The city shall continue, objective 1.3, private development, financing of infrastructure. The city shall continue to adhere to its policy that development projects should pay their fair share of public improvements based on their impact. We struck out through implementation of the following policies in order for it to be an objective that can stand on its own.
Chair.
Recognized.
Sunit, my suggestion, instead of saying fair share, would just to state a reasonable or equitable portion of public improvements based on their impact.
What if we say proportionate share? What do you think of that?
Proportionate, would it, but would it that mean proportionate to what the city pays?
Well, whatever they're using, they pay for, like their portion of the share. Say what you said. Say, give me the language you gave me one more time.
Just striking the word fair share.
Fair.
Well,
Fair share.
their fair share, and saying projects should pay a reasonable or equitable portion of public improvements.
Okay. And I'm going to ask them a question. So when we say equitable, does that mean they're paying equal to what the city has already been providing, or they're paying what the impact that they're adding to the city?
Right, and that was the same thing I was thinking with the fair share, because what is the fair share if they feel like their fair share is only 5%?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally right. I'm just trying to understand if that's how you're seeing it. When you say equitable, it's the portion, the impact that they're paying, that they're coming into, correct?
Right.
Okay. And did you write that on your paper too, please?
I did.
Thank you. All right, $1 if you can't stand it, $5 if it's okay, and $10 if it's great. Objective 4. Management of city's transportation system. The city shall emphasize safe and efficient management of the city's transportation system. This was a simple one. We made no changes to it, but it's pretty much showing that we are planning for our roadways and pedestrian paths. Remember, on the bill that you put in there, you make sure you write a number 4 on there so you can tell us if you loved it, if you hated it, or if you think it just needs some work.
Mr. Chair.
Recognize.
Question for clarification. city's transportation system. Do we actually have a system or do we just have roadways?
We have a bit of a network, I guess you would say.
I'm sorry?
I said I would say it's a bit of a network.
Network. System suggests to me that we have some kind of,
Kind of like a trains, planes.
Yes.
yes, some type of, bus system, trolley
Right.
system. Like West Palm does have a trolley system. But that system is what I'm trying to get clarification on. Because,
if-
yeah, I don't think we have, just my opinion, a system, a transportation system.
What would you think? Like, what do you think it is?
I would think,
Transportation network.
network, and somebody suggested that. I heard somebody say that early on when I asked that question. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I was just saying, I think it's of it more as a network. It's what we have.
Yes.
Maybe include language tied into the county. I don't know. Efficient
Yeah,
management
that
of
that
the
word system.
county
yes.
transportation system, or
It suggests that we have some kind of transportation fleet, and I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but we don't have a fleet where we actually have a system and go out and pick up our residents and that type of thing. But I may be off. I'm just.
Nope,
If
you
I may?
experienced it.
Yes.
It's coming from a firsthand experience. You're
It'd
correct.
just be a roadways, cities roadways.
One of the things that we want to do with upgrading this version of the comp plan, because this language predates the majority of people in the, especially on staff, definitely. But we do want to make sure that this version of the comprehensive plan is as close to the layman terms as possible. So when our citizens in the community read this, they know exactly what we're speaking of. And the transportation system may not be as communicative as our roads and sidewalks that people will know, okay, I know what those are, but transportation system may be a little ambiguous. So as we wordsmith and look to modify language, that is one of the lenses that we want to look at it through as well. So just interjecting that as we talk about what makes the most sense for that landing term at the end of that objective.
I think you said it best when you said roads and sidewalks.
Yes.
What do you guys think?
Agree.
Mr. Sherman, would it be would it be necessary, because we are doing a comprehensive plan and this is something for now, but we're still setting up something for the future also, given that we may have other things that may come in the future, to where we wouldn't have to change the language again, to where it be something that we can utilize now, but also for future use, for future because we may have, at some point, we may get a trolley if we open up the downtown area or something like that. So at least the language with system or network will still be relative to adding on different things without having to come back and change the language specifically later.
What if it said, Mr. Chair, what if it said the city's transportation system, which includes roads, sidewalks, and waterway? So, and I added waterway because I'm thinking of like water taxis.
Right.
That is clear. At least we know what it is.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And I do agree with the chair, because we have considered projects where water taxi to take people to Peanut Island was considered at one time. So the chair makes a good point about the possibility of the city actually incorporating some type of transportation fleet, be it may be small, but it may have a fleet of vehicles or a vehicle.
I'm hearing there's a future Riviera Beach ferry that will take persons around the main waterfront attraction.
We have had that discussion in the past, and I'm sure it may resurface.
All right. We want to
And-
think big for our comp plan, so
Yeah,
now's the time,
yes,
right?
absolutely. I mean, we're surrounded by water.
Yeah.
I mean, and we need to have some type of vision where we can take our residents maybe down to West Palm, up to Jupiter. I mean, something that we have to accommodate our residents and their interest to visit other areas on the water.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
I can see it happening. So, but I was just wanting to say I agree with the chair, and there need to be some language to accommodate potential future plans. That was my only.
And this one ties, so one of the things that we'll be doing in our comp plan is that we'll be showing how it connects with the other elements. So this one ties into our transportation element, if you all remember that discussion that we had. And if you remember, we had added a new objective in there that includes our waterway with the idea of hoping to one day have water taxis or whatnots. And also, Ms. Fernandez had added in to have the, I think you call them like the jitneys, but the small taxis that kind of go around the city as well. So we are trying to foresee what is to come. So I think the language that we've settled on with leaving system, but being specific to say that we're looking at our roads, sidewalks, and waterways will help us to do that and to connect the ideas that are in the transportation element with this element.
Mr. Chair.
Recognize.
So you said that you were going to include waterways too, sidewalk, roads, and waterways.
Correct.
Okay.
Y'all want to add air to that, guys?
Train.
Okay, we can afford that.
Get a bright line stop.
Yeah, we include trains also.
Rail.
Yeah,
I think we do have a thing. We are trying. We might want to add that actually. We are trying to have the connector stops where either we somehow connect to Tri-Rail, where maybe it's a shuttle that takes over to Tri-Rail, or maybe this day we have a stop coming here, even though it's pretty close. But it is something we can consider. I know it's been talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Objective 5, this one in reference to the coastal high hazard area expenditures. The city shall seek to limit public expenditures that subsidize development in the coastal high hazard areas and are not in the public's interest. We
Mr. Chair,
struck through implementation of the following policies.
Mr. Chair,
Recognize.
could you clarify coastal high hazard areas for me, please?
So we have areas that are the closest to our waters, where they are more prone to flooding, and also a loss of infrastructure. And so we wouldn't want to build in these areas, or we wouldn't want to help developers build in these areas because it's such a vulnerable space, and it causes vulnerability to the whole city. Because if we build in that area, it makes the city susceptible to flooding and to other harms. And so this is a delineated area. I'm sorry, I'm trying to adjust my leg. This is a delineated area on our coastal area. I think it's starting from the Carolinas down to the Keys. Federally, it's a delineated area.
Oh, okay. All right.
There are flood maps that delineate the CHHA, coastal high hazard area. And the whole idea is that to designate those as areas that are non-buildable, or they discourage development in those areas. And so we identify them as such.
Mr. Chair, I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
On that same note, and it may be somewhere further down in our review, but do we address limiting building on submerged lands?
In our coastal management element, we do say this, but I think we didn't use the term submerged land. I think it's more vulnerable areas. Is probably the term that was utilized.
And Mr. Chair, and let me just say, people do buy submerged lands and they try to build on them.
Correct.
And in some areas, it is permissible and in the codes, but we can, to the extent we can without violating property rights laws,
Correct.
try to limit that within our city boundaries, not to try to trample on anybody's property rights. That's not what I'm suggesting. And the state has indicated that sometimes there are environmental issues that have to be considered as well as we consider allowing people when they have bought submerged land to build on it. So I just want to know if the issue of submerged land is being addressed within our comp plan.
We don't have it specifically called out.
Yes, actually, Ms. Simon, if I could jump in the future land use section, it does directly address submerged lands in the city's policy to not, I'll read the exact language under special preservation. It is the express policy objective of the city to preclude and land development of submerged lands except as specifically permitted by this section, including but not limited to mangroves, wetlands, and estuarine bottomlands to the maximum extent permissible by law. And in multiple sections, it talks about the protection of the habitat surrounding the submerged land. So, and as Ms. Simon mentioned earlier, it is the intent in this version of the comp plan to connect the dots between different elements. So where there's overlap in policies between the different chapters, to point them out so that we can know how the network of different sections work together to achieve the same goals.
Can you note that one for us to make sure that it's also utilizing same language in the coastal management for me?
Yes, I will make my notes as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes.
Excellent question. All right, and this is the last one for capital improvements. The capital improvements shall be reviewed annually and the 5-year plan updated annually as part of the city's annual budget process. I should have struck out as set forth above on this one, so that should be struck out.
It is on mine.
Okay, excellent. I was thinking somewhere. I thought I did that, but I guess I forgot to do it in my presentation.
Mr. Chair. Yes. Sonny, can we on all these capital improvements, all these meetings, all those wonderful books that our finance department has with them, can we make sure we post it somewhere on our city website?
Yes.
We need transparency and somewhere we can find it, not that we have to go hunting for it.
Agreed. So one of the things, because of your first question, I know one of the things that we're wanting to do with this particular plan is to also have these plans that are being identified within the comp plan also available on the same comp plan website or web page. So that way you're not trying to find it across across our website. Yes, we'll make sure that happens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Simon, one other question, just to go back to the beginning part where goal 1 is, where it
Correct.
states to ensure that the city's capital improvement plan achieves adequate service levels for the community. Is it possible for the word adequate to be removed? Because to me, in the sentence, it seems adequate is the bare minimum that we're providing for our community, and we could probably use the word optimal.
Optimal sounds wonderful.
Where's that, Mr. Chair?
In the goal 1 in the first part.
Did you write that on your paper as well, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good catch.
Great suggestion. You guys are great. We might make that time you're looking for.
Oh, yes, we will.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, some people will be
Recognize.
absent.
And again, just to be consistent with all the other objectives, to include language stating who's reviewing annually. Oh, sorry. To be consistent with the other objectives, could we also
Mhm.
include language that states who reviews annually in this one as well?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Great suggestion. Awesome. So we finished our capital improvements. You guys did awesome. And we are going into infrastructure, which they all tie in together. Because that was the how we paid for it, and this is the what it is that we're actually doing. Here we go. Purpose of this one, the purpose of the infrastructure element in any comprehensive plan is to outline the infrastructure and services needed to support a community's growth. This element helps ensure that a community has the services it needs to support its growth and is attractive to residents, businesses, and visitors. I thought that was important for me to add that part, attractive. It's not 100% based off of like, oh, you look pretty, but it's also to attract people to our city if they know that we have the proper infrastructure for our residents, our businesses, and for visitors to participate. The goal for this one is to provide and maintain the public infrastructure in a manner that will ensure excellent public health, safety, and quality of life for Riviera Beach. To provide and maintain the public infrastructure in a manner that will ensure excellent public health, safety, and quality of life for Riviera Beach. I did want to say for this time around, we are not utilizing our dollars. You can close your jars up. And now we'll just be working on our pages. I can't see you, so I don't know if you've closed your jars and if you're ready to rock and roll for infrastructure.
We have.
Excellent. You guys are awesome. Alrighty, so this one's a little bit different from the last one because you have a yes or no. This one you can say, yes, I like this one. No, I don't like it. And if it's kind of in between, you can just write the why. To the right of that yes and no is a comment section where you say how you'd love to improve it, or oh my word, this is just so good. I don't have any more comments to put down. But please write comments for me. Those help me to improve it and to coax our consultants to think more and give us better language at times as well. Okay. There's also a part that I would like for us to look at. This particular element is a little difficult for readers to read. Mr. Sherman said it earlier, where we are trying to make this user-friendly. And every time I sat down with our different departments that are impacted by this, that utilizes this element, everyone got a little confused because it was kind of all over the place. And when something is all over the place, we don't really use it. And our goal for our comp plan is that this is a book that everyone will use and everyone will be able to quote it and understand it. And so I need your help and I want you to hear what you think about if we restructure this particular element. And so it's going to look a little messy, but we're going to work through it. You'll notice in the second column, you'll see there's a lot of strike throughs. It's because I'm trying to rework how it's outlined. So currently, this element says current deficiencies, then it says water and sewer, and then it talks about solid waste, then it talks about stormwater, and then it talks about level of service for all of them, and then it talks about water conservation, then it talks about the well field protections, and then our water supply plan. People get thrown off because it's talking about everything as a group, and then it talks about these individual areas, and then it talks about everything as a group again. And so what I'm proposing is that we talk about we talk about addressing the deficiencies. And then we have a section that's all about water. And then once we're done talking about water, we can talk about stormwater and flooding and mitigation. And then we can talk about solid waste. So that way it's a little easier to flow. The flow is better, and we're able to go through that element without getting confused. Okay? So it will look a little messy on how I have it, but this is because I'm trying to get us to flow as opposed to being all over the place. Are there any thoughts on my new proposed idea? Or if you want to keep it as it is?
Mr. Chair.
Recognized.
Okay. Over in the objective section where it says addressing deficiencies, and then it goes on to say the city shall correct infrastructure deficiencies. And I'm curious why the infrastructure is not over in the objective section so that those who may not have an industry background would understand that this section is only addressed. I don't know why I keep saying section. This section is addressing infrastructure deficiencies.
So would you like to retitle it to be addressing infrastructure deficiencies?
When I'm addressing policies like these, I try to reduce it to the lowest common denominator for people who have no background in any of this.
I'm with you.
When they look at it, they will understand what it is as a layperson. And that's really where I'm going with what I'm trying to do.
I love it. I'm with you. I'm following.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Wait, before you leave, how do you want to retitle it?
Just add infrastructure to the objective section.
Excellent. So that first one, the city shall correct infrastructure deficiencies by proactively planning for stormwater, sanitary sewers, and potable water. We struck out implementing and I forgot to know it, and we added proactively. And we struck out policies specified below, because once again, I tell you, I don't like when they do that. I think we need to be definitive. This is what we're doing. If you like it, say yes. If you don't like it, say no, and put comments on the side as to why you said no or yes.
I got one question. And I'm just trying to read it. Maybe I'm overlooking the sentence.
You're fine. You're good.
It says for the objective, it says the city shall correct infrastructure deficiencies by proactively planning for stormwater, sanitation, sewer, and potable water. So I was looking at when it was saying basically the city shall correct infrastructure and then state proactively, then if you're correcting something, then it wouldn't be proactive. Could we put in the word proactive and then make adjustments?
And make adjustments?
And then make adjustments. So, I mean, I don't know if it's another word. I'm pretty sure we can use another word better than that. To be able for planning for stormwater, to where we're not only trying to prevent, but also trying to react or fix or make corrections at that time to the same areas, to where it will be more of a complete sentence rather than just stating that we're making a correction to something, but if it's proactive, then it's before the situation happened. So let's combine proactive with continuing to make adjustments or to make I'm trying to find a word for it.
And because you have the gist of what you're wanting to say, we can, if you don't have to force yourself to think of the words now, we can have the consultants come up with the word, but I have the gist of what you're wanting to say.
Right, because I'm trying to, like what Mr. Guyton's saying, for a regular person to be able to read it and be able to
Mhm.
understand it
Mhm.
completely, you want to kind of break it down as simple as possible to where anyone be able to understand exactly what you're saying, and to where it is right now, it's a little more complicated. Like I said,
And I don't
with
want it to
Mr.
be complicated. So
Right.
yeah, be good for us to break it down more. Anybody have any suggestions?
Oh, we can move on. Keep it moving.
Objective 2, water and wastewater facilities. The city shall construct and maintain sufficient utility infrastructure to maintain water resources, potable water services, and wastewater service in a manner to protect the public health, welfare, and environment in accordance to applicable local, state, and federal regulations. As we all know, this is a very critical and a crucial objective for our city right now. Are we missing anything in this language?
Sure.
Recognize.
So it reads well, and I believe the way it's written, it will also encompass any future growth within the city, because it's not limited to language.
Mhm. Okay. Objective 3. The city shall plan for future water supplies through the adoption and scheduled updates of a water supply work plan and incorporate the alternative water supply projects identified in the South Florida Waste Management District's regional water supply plan. This was the plan that you all looked at the plan recently when we were doing some changes, when we were updating the water supply plan. So this is the objective that aligns with that plan that you guys looked at the other day, or back in November.
Yes.
Objective 4, if it's okay for me to move on,
Yeah, just a quick question.
let's go back.
How does the city determine the volume of water needed for a certain population and projected population?
If
That is
I-
above my pay grade.
if I may-
I know there's a calculation that's done for our city and all
Yeah,
other cities.
I guess, does the city determine that, or does the county, the state? Who actually determines the volume of water for certain population, for the number of people in the population?
Through the South Florida Water Management District, they issue, each city is issued or the county, in some instances, is issued a consumptive use permit. And under that consumptive use permit, it's based upon the population projection and over a 10-year horizon. And within that 10-year, they use Beaver, the Bureau of Economic Statistics.
Okay, I think you pretty much got it.
Yeah. You all know about, I'm sure you have. And so they use that. They also use the U.S. Census, but since the census is every 10 years, Beaver uses the census, but then projects out. And so what happens through the Lower East Coast Water Supply Plan, of which we're a part of that, they take Beaver, they take the census, and then they project out the population. And then from there, they take the numbers of people and have a formula for the consumption amount. And that's usually based upon history. Okay, how many people, level of consumption that the city of Riviera Beach has consumed over the past 5 years, and then they roll it each year on a rolling basis based upon the population. And it's all a projection that they get from Bieber and from the University of Florida is Bieber where they're from, and try to project that out. And then the city, the utility district, applies for via the consumptive use permit for a certain amount of water, and it's in million gallons a day, or MGD. MGD is the way it's done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jack. So
That's
essentially, they do empirical studies. They actually go out and determine the use of different populations.
Right. There's a regulatory section.
Okay, a nutshell, not a dissertation. Okay.
I'll be brief.
Okay,
It's the regulatory section handles that.
Okay,
Long
thank
story
you.
short.
Thank you for that. Objective 4, water conservation. The city shall meet the requirements of the South Florida Water Management District's consumptive use permit to reduce the per capita usage. We struck out old language that said the city shall achieve the capability to reduce water consumption by 15% in times of a water supply emergency and reduce water consumption by 5% on a permanent basis for city-owned or maintained areas. And the reasoning behind the new language that was offered was because if we stick to the per capita usage, we are automatically consuming less and sticking to that less than 15% during emergencies and 5% on a permanent basis. And so the team said, let's stick to what our permit allows us to do.
Chair.
Recognized.
Sunil, when you read it out, you cut out the word such as. So you said it, the city shall meet the requirements of the South Florida Water Management District consumptive use permit to reduce the per capita usage. You struck out such as?
Is there such as on?
Yes, it's there. So strike it out, correct?
Oh, strike that. Oh, yes. I'm remembering. Yes, please
you.
strike that out. It's in the middle of the sentence, correct?
Yes, strike
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. And that actually makes me feel good. It means you're reading along with me. Thank you.
The guy, with your expertise in this, the sentence that was struck out compared to the new one we put here, would it be more understandable?
I'm sorry, where are you reading from?
1-4. Would it be more understandable where the sentence was struck out, where they had the numbers, had the information in there for the person who was reading it to understand, rather than the new sentence that basically implies that what they be doing?
I would rather defer, and I give my opinion, but I would rather defer to staff on that question. But let me let staff do their job. Then I comment. I will comment.
Can I ask for clarity? Because Mr.
Okay.
Chair, I would
Comment.
I can agree with you that I feel like it's a little vague. Would it make you feel more comfortable if we set a goal for ourselves as a city, where we say that per capita we decrease it, we try to reach like less than, I don't know, 100 and I'm just going to throw a random number out,
Right.
110 millions of gallons, as opposed to maybe we're currently doing 130. Would that make you feel like we're reaching something more if we had specific numbers?
I'm just looking at it from my standpoint, to where that, like you said, that would give me something to try to achieve and be able to understand what I am trying to achieve, rather than just be left kind of vague to where you're trying to understand what's going on, or you don't know where the starting or the ending point is. So
Mhm.
I would at least want to include what you have, and then kind of put some statistics to it to be able to have some kind of understanding. So at least at the end, we'll be able to say, but this is what we started at, and then we did have a 15% decrease or a 10% increase, or that way at the end. So when we evaluate it later on, we'll be able to see what we actually did and what we didn't do.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think you just answered your own question. I like that.
For you.
Sometimes language is written intentionally vague
Got it.
in order to not be tied to a certain expectation, but have a trend. We're trending downward or trending upward. So if the goal is to trend downward, a percentage can be used as opposed to a specific number of gallons or whatever the case may be. So, but you just answered your own
I sure
question,
did.
as most do when they think through it, and I don't see a problem with adding a percentage. But the goal is to have a trend going either downward or upward, and as it relates to specificity, sometimes that makes it convoluted.
Right.
Because if you don't reach that, then there may be some suggestions that we're not doing what we're supposed to do or should do, which is not the case. You didn't reach this number right here. But if you're trending in the right way, I think that would be acceptable to many.
Right.
But we did good.
But Mr. Gayton, again, that's why I said when I started off, I said with your expertise, I knew you would know why.
And I'm not no smarter than anybody else in here, but my background is planning. But yeah, I've met people with no planning background that have good ideas. So, but thank you. Okay, we can keep moving along.
Mr. Chair, I got one question.
But what we
Yes.
decide?
So I got one question. Does the city have any plans on the water management for our open areas, such as some cities are not going to recycled water for irrigation? Does this city have any plans? Because that would save us beaucoup gallons of water daily. Do we have any plans to, one, maybe use non-potable water from other sources like other cities do, and two, maybe plant less water intensive plants and shrubs? Do we have any plans? Okay, so no plans for water consumption. Okay, we're gonna have, but can we end?
This was a part of our conversation when these are draft language from months ago, and since then we've had a lot of change in leadership, and so I can't speak for what future leaders are thinking of. I know that was a question that I did ask, and at that point it was yes, I know they were working on plants or whatnot. But us as a team here, as we want to look at it, I think that is a goal that we can add in there, or that is an objective that we can add in to talk about, reusing water, reclaiming water in order for us to water our large open spaces, as you said.
We could do the same
So
thing for
we can
rural-
add that as what's missing.
Okay,
If you
and
can
we
put
could
that
also
in
do the same thing
your
for
comment
our
box.
developers. When they plant the shrubs, let's try to think of using plants and shrubs that require less water than what's being planted. Folks, we're going to
we
be
do
outgrowing
follow-
right now
we
our
do-
aquifer. We're outgrowing the aquifer that we sit on.
Mhm.
We're not building any reservoirs. We're not building any desalination plants. So we gotta think ahead. So at least Riviera Beach has our water and we can conserve in certain areas. That's very easy to do.
Under this particular objective, we do emphasize Florida-friendly, Florida-friendly landscaping. One of the things that I know that our city has been debating has been, when we talk about Florida-friendly landscaping, updating our land development code as well to recognize that it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be some of the foliage. It can also include pebbles and not necessarily xeriscaping, but xeriscaping is an idea as well. So this one does consider that under this objective. The policies do point back to up-to-date Florida-friendly landscaping. Mhm.
Thank you.
So maybe what we could do with this one is, instead of just saying, our consumptive use is reduced, maybe we add something that talks about landscaping, because it's the objective. So it's supposed to talk about the policies that are following. So maybe we can say, not our consumptive use is reduced, as well as the way we, I'll figure something out, but I will add that to that.
I wrote it down for you here anyway, so.
I am so excited. Thank you. At this. That is exactly what I need, because it will help us remember. So they can clean up that idea. Excellent. Excellent. You guys are on a roll. I think we're going to be out of here before our time. This is great. Wellfield protection. I'm going to just go quickly over this one, just because I think it's worth saying. You all already know this, but for me, I'm not the best at this, so I figured I'd do it for the rest of for those that are like me. A well field is an area surrounding a permitted well where 100,000 gallons or more of potable water is pumped out of the ground per day. The majority of our drinking water supply comes from underground freshwater aquifers, and contamination. But our well fields are subjected to contamination every day as they seep through our grounds, especially next to these well fields. So, as a city, we follow Palm Beach County's Wellfield Protection Ordinance in order for us to ensure that we are limiting the pollution that seeps back into our ground and into our drinking water supply. Objective 5 is about that wellfield protection. It says, protect the city's natural drainage and recharge areas by following the Palm Beach County's Wellfield Protection Ordinance. Originally, and I apologize because my mind does not have the underlining of Palm Beach County's Wellfield Protection Ordinance. Originally, it said, protect the city's natural drainage and recharge areas by retaining all existing natural water bodies. Where our team decided that we wanted to make sure we do this by following what the ordinance says and aligning with Palm Beach County's goal.
Good.
Looks good. Next.
Next. Oh, okay. Well, here we go.
Good.
Stormwater, flood prevention and mitigation. We added flood prevention and mitigation to this title. It used to just be stormwater, but we felt that just to kind of emphasize what it is that we're trying to do, enhance the city's resilience by implementing advanced stormwater management principles to reduce flood risk, improve water quality, and support local ecosystems. Originally, we didn't have an objective. It just read stormwater. So we added language to say our objective is what you are reading. How can we improve this? All right. Say yes or no. Make your comments and share your comments if you have any. On the picture on the right, this is just a random fact thing I wanted to share. I went to a middle school students presentation, and they were promoting drains are for rain flows, because one of the issues that they were presenting, and this was here in our area, so students from our community, and what they were presenting was having a lot of pollutants that are coming from people pouring things down the drain, from our pesticides that we have that we put in our grass, going down the drain, and how that it's impacting our water system. And so they are going around the neighborhoods and they're spray painting drains are for rain flows, so that way people are cognizant of where that water is going to go. I thought this was it's a new idea to them here in our community. And I was asking maybe if it's okay, I'm gonna ask our powers that be if they can do it to more of our drains here in the city. But they were only doing it to a couple of them just to kind of test it out. But I thought it was a really good idea. That was just a random fact I threw in there so you guys can, so you know what all is happening in our community. So no, nothing on this one?
No.
Okay, yes, you guys are excited about it. Nice. Or exhausted. Objective 6, solid waste. The city shall, well, I'll say what we crossed out. We crossed out, the city shall continue to advocate a reduction in the per capita amount of solid waste trucked to the county disposal site. We no longer have the same providers in all. And I think Roberto's in the room, if I remember correctly, but we had come together and we had come up with the city shall promote participation of residents and businesses in available recycling and solid waste programs, as one of the things that we as a city could help to eliminate the amount of waste that's going to our landfills. And so that's something that we as a city would like to start doing more of.
Yes.
Okay, well, that was our last one. I'd love to know what else was missing. We identified some things that we felt were not mentioned in our objectives. Are there anything else that we're missing? We'd love some more innovative ideas to add into this. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What are your passions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, recognized.
I think that it's been pretty comprehensive, but if anyone to include residents, digest what they have heard tonight, including board members, could we just email you, Simone?
Yes, please.
Okay, I think that'd be the best way, because we may think of things after we leave here.
Exactly.
So if that is the case.
And for everyone that's watching and all, we have this on our website, and you're able to comment on them. So on the Riviera 2040 website, so we're on Riviera2040.com, you can go online and comment on all the things that we've just been talking about and the other elements as well. But yes, for you, Mr. Guyton, please email me anything else that you'd probably talk to other people about, and any other ideas that you have. That'd be amazing.
Okay, dope.
Thank you, Sunit.
Thank you.
Thank you
Simone.
very much.
Next item on the agenda.
Oh, man, I got shoot off. Okay, goodbye.
You've done a very good job tonight, but the process must continue. You know, we have to keep it moving.
All right, on to number 9. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, Chair, we have one public comment card, Miss Mary Bram. And at this time, this ends the public comment card after Miss Bram.
Good evening, Miss Mayor Bram. I was over to another meeting earlier. I was at another meeting, so I'm making my rounds here
Good
tonight.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
Mr. Simone, you did a good job because I did want to say something about the storm drainage area. When she made mention about the hair, we have a lot of sand that's going into that drainage system over on 8th Street there, because it is that sand pit over there that's not maintainable. And
This is
as
on
a
which
board
street?
member and as leaders, we need to get on those peoples over there to make that place a more safety environment and detour a lot of that sand that flows in that drainage over there. You live over there. I've spoke about this numerous of times here. That needs to be corrected. We are having a problem and we are trying to maintain our systems and get our systems up. But we cannot continue at this pace here with what is happening over there on 8th Street with that sand pit. Now, whoever power system that is, I always say, this is what happens when we get ourselves so consumed in the power system here. So you need to take care of that. Gallon, you live over there, and that's that sand pit. I've seen it. I've spoke about it. I've gotten pictures about it. I even sent it to different agencies so that when this all comes out on this city here, as far as how we are moving and the things that we need to put corrective measures in. We welcome city business, but it's how you come into our city. We already have, and we're trying to mitigate and do the things that we need to do to get our plant in operational so that our water system can be a safety system, because water is life. But we cannot continuously to have all of that sand going in that drain like that. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to the community. It's unacceptable to our drinking water system. So that needs to be corrected. That's one thing. Marion Dozier, I made mention about Marion, that Miss Dozier, everybody knows she worked here for numerous of years and she was very fluent. And she was instrumental in a lot of things that she participated in and helped the city along. So this coming Sunday, January the 26th, they will have a little memorial for her at 88 Palms Hotel and Event Center. The location is 1901 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, West Palm Beach, Florida. And they are asking that you wear some bright colors because we know Marion was very bright and her spirit will continuously to live on. So they're asking that we wear bright colors or either a flower. You can watch it live on CocoWhy.net Facebook. And for more information, you can contact 404-803-7391 or 561-209-4241. So I wanted to make those comments, and we do expect for you all to do some cleanup with that rock, with that sand pit over there, because that is on the agenda for election. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. All right, on to number 10. We have general discussion. Do we have any staff updates?
None from staff, Mr. Chair.
Any correspondence from the board? Planning and zoning board comments, and we're seeing listed here the upcoming planning and zoning board meeting, February 13th. That's confirmed.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have some agenda items for you.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.